Welcome at the Debic Masterclass. I am Bruno van Varenberg, culinary advisor for the Debic Bakery, and I will create these 3 delicious products with our Debic butter specialties. For this Tropez we need a brioche dough and you also need a crème mousseline. For the dough we start with the milk, 2/3 of the flour, the yeast, the sugar and the eggs. And at the moment that this dough gets elastic, we stop the dough, we add the rest of the flour and the salt and we leave it for 20 to 30 minutes, ambient temperature, and then we restart kneading it. And at the moment that the dough takes its consistency, you can add the butter. At the moment that all butter is absorbed by the dough, you can stop kneading and you put the dough in the fridge. We divide the dough in pieces of 50 to 60 grams and we leave it to rest in the fridge for half an hour, maximum 1 hour. So now those dough pieces, we are going to round them up. We put them in pre-greased circles. So they're ready now to put them in the proofing room, or even you can leave them to ferment in an ambient temperature, but just you have to cover them with plastic. For the mousseline crème, we need milk, vanilla pot, half of the sugar, starch. It's a mixture between flour and starch. So this is something that you can choose yourself. 100% starch or 100% flour, it works. It's up to you. And egg yolks. You're going to make a kind of a crème pâtissière. And at the moment that the crème pâtissière binds, I'm going to add the first part of the butter. Rest of the sugar, both starches, flour, starch. And to avoid clumps, I add always a little bit of semi-warm milk to the starch. So at the moment that the milk starts boiling, you can add this pre-mixture, eggs and starch and sugar, and bring it to a boil. At the moment that you see that it's boiling, just stir for half a minute to be sure that all the starch has absorbed the liquidity of the crème pâtissière. So for a good crème mousseline, we will add in 2 times the butter. 1/3 goes immediately, even when it's hot, to the crème pâtissière. So you see that after a while, all the butter is nice, homogeneously mixed with the crème pâtissière. No more fat drops. And this recipe we're going to put in the fridge for 2-3 hours minimum. It could be for all night. And it's only afterwards, when you start to whip the crème pâtissière, this part, that you will add the second part of butter. The Tropez had its proofing time, 100 minutes, 1 hour and a half at 25-26 degrees here in ambient temperature, just protected with some cling film so it doesn't dry out. I'm going just egg wash it. Just gently egg washing the Tropez brioche. A little bit of pearl sugar. In France, they use it for the chouquette, the small choux. In Belgium, the bigger chunks are used in the waffles, but in this case, this is perfect for a nice decoration on that typical tarte Tropézienne. Because this brioche are for maximum 8-9 minutes in a very hot oven to 20 degrees, the sugar will not burn. We are back with our mousseline cream. Crème mousseline, it's like a pastry cream, crème pâtissière with 1/3 of the butter already mixed in. It's cooled down, you're going to whip it, not on a very high speed. Now you can see the big crème butter is very soft. It's ambient temperature. It's about 22-23 degrees. We're going to add that to the cold crème pâtissière. Leave it for about maximum 2 minutes, medium speed, until everything is mixed together, nice combined. It takes some air. Very airy, it's necessary also. We have a brioche, very rich, a lot of eggs, a lot of butter. We have a crème pâtissière with butter, so if it's too compact, it's not delicious anymore. That's the way of working. Find the right balance, even with rich ingredients, with rich components, to have a nice combination. Very airy, perfect to pipe. The secret of the tarte Tropézienne is not only a very good brioche, it's not only a perfect buttercream, but it's also a dash of orange blossom water. Orange blossom water together with syrup and some zest of oranges or lime can help you to make the brioche a little bit richer. Some of my colleagues put the orange blossom water in the dough. It's not bad, but then you need really a bake stable product. And in this case, we have a classical brioche. You can use it for all other doughs, all other applications. And in this case, you just add a little bit of flavor to your syrup and sprinkle, or with a brush, a few ml on the brioche. So this is my Saint-Tropez. It's a version of the tarte Tropézienne, but in mono portion. A nice rich brioche with a lot of butter, an elegant buttercream, and an accent of orange blossom water syrup. Bon appétit! Danish Pastry gives us a lot of opportunities to make an enormous assortment of fresh baked viennoiserie. The Danish pastry that we are going to roll out will be decorated with the crémeux of pistachio. We'll add a part of cream, a full fat cream. In this case is the stand-in oven. It could be a 35% or a 40%, just to have a little bit more fat into your crémeux. Half of the sugar. The rest of the sugar I will mix with my egg yolks. So I always add a little bit of hot milk to my eggs. It's also easy to mix with the cornstarch. This is just to avoid clumps. And at the moment that you obtain a really nice elastic pastry cream, at the last stage I will add the pistachio pasta. So we leave it to cool down for half an hour. At that moment I can pipe them easily in these molds. Right now it's too thick and it's also too hot to put in these molds. So in the meantime, the pistachio crème is cooled down. It's nice and stiff. I'm going to put it in the stir mixer just to make it smooth so I can pipe it in the silicone molds. So the pieces of Danish pastry are proofed, ambient temperature, and after 1 hour, 1.5 hours, egg wash gently. And the prepared pistache crème. We put them in the oven of about 220 degrees, 15, 16, 17 minutes, something like that. Our Danish nice baked with crème of pistache. As you can see, it didn't bake over. It's a good recipe. You can play with other tastes like hazelnut, for instance, or dried raspberry powder. Mix it in your crème, freeze it, and use it as a kind of decoration or fantasy in your Danish dinners. Just finish it with some neutral or apricot jelly for the shine. The middle will be topped with raspberry coulis and a fresh piece of fruit. Danish pastry, a classical croissant recipe, 2 times 4 layers, so 2 double tours. Crème of pistachio, marmalade of raspberries, and finished with fresh raspberries. Enjoy! Next creation is the Operette. Operette, opera, it's a classical from the French pastry. We make it with an elegant crème au beurre, a buttercream made with boiled sugar and butter. We're going to use a lot of coffee and Remy Martin cognac just to make it super deluxe. First of all, we start by boiling the sugar with the water. Eventually, you can also use a half a pot vanilla. Eggs and egg yolk we already put in our mixer. We just stir it a while. It makes absolutely no sense to whip it to a foam because you are putting such a mass of sugar into your eggs that it will collapse. It's not a problem. It's the complete mass of boiled sugar, egg yolk, what we are going to whip to a nice and fluffy foam. And at that moment, when the foam is cooled down, we will add the Debic butter crème. At the moment that the sugar water starts to boil, stop with stirring. Take out the vanilla. And to be correct, you can wash the inside of the pot. This is only to avoid crystallization of the sugar. So just have to wait. Use a thermometer. And please do not stir anymore. So now we put that boiled sugar of 121 degrees onto the eggs and the egg yolk. Now it has to stir until it has cooled down. Cooling down at approximately 30-35 degrees is exactly the moment that you can add the butter. Use medium speed, that's enough. It makes no sense to whip it to a big foam. But okay, let it turn, use your time to do something else, and in the meantime we're going to prepare the mold for the operette. So after a few minutes, the pâte à bombe, the mixture of egg yolk and sugar water, is cooled down at approximately 25, maximum 30 degrees. At that moment you can add the butter. Butter at ambient temperature. So you see this buttercream has a really nice texture. It's only sugar, eggs, vanilla, and the big crème butter. This is a basic recipe. You can use it for everything. If you think it's good for cakes, to decorate small mono portions. But in this case, for the operette, we are going to flavor it with coffee, with strong coffee. So this is our buttercream, the coffee buttercream that we are going to use for the layering in the operette. Now we're going to make a second layer, that's the ganache. For the ganache I'm using a dark chocolate, it's around 60%. Don't make it too bitter, because you already have a nice flavor of your coffee. 60-64% is perfect. In this specific recipe we are not going to work with cream, but we are going to work with milk. Why? That's because we are going to add a lot of fresh butter. The Debic crème butter is a perfect butter to make your ganache very soft. It's not a filling for chocolates, it's for in a cake. So you really need a kind of a density when you cut it and when you taste it. For the degustation, the texture, it's better to use this kind of ganaches. It's not necessary to cook the milk, but when it's hot enough, 70 degrees, you can pour it over the chocolate, stir it or mix it. Wait then to cool down 30 degrees, maximum 35 degrees, and then we will add the butter. Make a nice emulsion, and that will be the ganache. So for the assembly of the operette, we use a frame. Could be a 60-40, this is a smaller one, and therefore we need 4 layers of sponge cake. And we are going to soak it and to punch it very well with a strong coffee syrup. You see that I'm also using a bit of liquid cream in my syrup. It's not only for the taste, it's only to keep your syrup longer in your sponge cake. That makes the difference. It's because the fat of the cream that protects the rest of the syrup not to drain completely to the bottom. Could be a very good advice also for your tiramisu. Making this kind of a syrup, add 5% of liquid cream to your syrup, or with marsala, or with another liquor. I use pure coffee, a little bit of Remy Martin. I'm going to soak these layers of biscuit. Now I'm going to pipe my first layer of coffee buttercream on the sponge cake. I'm going to close it, and afterwards the ganache. If you want to put extra grounded coffee on it or meringue, everything is possible now to build up more structure. But in this case, we just keep the classical way. First layer, second layer. I prepared the ganache with the milk and the dark chocolate. It's cooled down to 35, maximum 40 degrees. I'm going to make an emulsion together with the butter. In this case, again, I'm using the Debic crème butter because of the lower melting point. A lower melting point gives you the advantage that the texture and the melting behavior of this ganache will go very fondant in your mouth. It's much better than a very hard ganache with a hard, stiff butter. Take your time to make a really nice emulsion. It's not very hot, so the butter needs to be absorbed by the ganache. The following layer, of course, our famous coffee cocktail. Just punch it, syrup, coffee, a little bit of cream, and for those who like it, a little bit of Remy Martin. A second layer of buttercream, and we finish with the last layer. At the moment that the last coffee punch is soaked by the sponge cake and you feel a little bit dry, then just finish it with a very tiny layer of crème au beurre.